I'm Jimmy Johnson.
And I'm Mary Aquino.
I was a firefighter in Las Vegas for 30 years. After I jumped into retirement, Mary and I decided to leave Las Vegas and travel the world in search of adventure and spiritual enlightenment. Our first stop was New York City, where we spent a 15-hour layover and whirlwind tour before boarding a plane and heading to Portugal. Once in the air, a woman in the cabin ahead of us had passed out in the flight over the Atlantic. I was called upon to help out as a medical professional, and this would not be the first time during our trip this would happen. As we were preparing to board the flight to Paris from Lisbon, another woman passed out in the bus ahead of us. Once again, I was called upon to help. After this small delay, we boarded the plane and it was off to Paris. We opted to stay in an Airbnb in Paris. This was an excellent choice because it was close to everything and it was affordable. It also offered us the chance to venture out in the city, and our first stop was the Louvre Museum. We chose the Louvre Museum for two reasons. One, because it was overcast and rainy out. Two, because it is simply amazing. There are so many works of art throughout the centuries of humanity from all over the world that are featured here in the Louvre Museum. Roman statues, architecture from the original palace, and of course, the many wonderful paintings by famous artists throughout history. Most of the artwork in the Louvre depicts French history, but some are world famous, like Leonardo da Vinci's The Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa sits in a room all by itself, so get there early if you want to get a front row seat and take a selfie with her. One of my other favorites is the Venus de Milo, or statue of Aphrodite. This statue was actually found on an island near Greece by a peasant farmer. The artist is still unknown to today. The Louvre covers a lot of ground. It is a very large facility. It has an underground mall and restaurants you can eat at. It has guided tours and the ability to know about each piece of art. Once we were done with the Louvre, we traveled outside where the rain had just begun. Finally, the rain gave in and we visited the Notre Dame Cathedral. Located in the central part of Paris, on an island which is one of only two remaining natural islands on the Seine River, the Notre Dame Cathedral is home to some historic events such as the coronation of Napoleon Bonaparte as the Emperor of France. After the cathedral, the skies cleared up, and Miri and I decided to travel to Paris's second famous architecture, the Arc de Triomphe. The Arc de Triomphe sits in the middle of a square that Charles de Gaulle named the Star, because it sits in the middle of a roundabout that has 12 roads radiating from its center. The Arc de Triomphe is accessed under these roads by an underground tunnel. The monument was built in honor of the Napoleonic Wars and those who fought under the general Napoleon Bonaparte. The inside of the arch and the outside columns are inscribed with all of the generals that followed Napoleon. But the monument has also become the tomb of the unknown soldier for World War I and a monument to those who fought in World War II. But no trip to Paris is complete without a visit to the iconic Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower is a wrought iron lattice tower on the Champs de Mars in Paris, France. It is named after the engineer Gustave Eiffel, who interestingly enough designed and built the Statue of Liberty in New York. The tower is a gorgeous background to the Paris skyline, but at night it lights up like a Christmas tree. Traveling to Europe from America offers other strange delights, like using the public restroom. When you have to go to the bathroom in Paris and it's an emergency, you just go in there. It's like the Men in Black door. It's in the wash cycle. It cleans itself.
Oh my god.
Stop. Oh, it's lit. Okay, ready?
Okay, it's ready now.
Let's go.
Wow, the thing I really like about Paris was the food. We visited a lot of cafes and we drink a lot of coffee.
They say that Paris is the city of love. And with that theme in mind, Miri and I had decided to go to a famous bridge where people lock their love into place and throw the key into the river. Tradition started sometime in 2008. However, the city of Paris found that so many locks were being placed that parts of the bridge were collapsing. So Mira and I went to the other place that love has to do with: death. Here is where many famous people are buried in Paris, such as Frédéric Chopin and Jim Morrison. And no visit to this cemetery would be complete without a visit to the Morrison grave. It is here that Mira and I decided to lock our love into place. And once our love was locked on the famous tree of gum near Jim Morrison's gravesite, we did what anybody else would do. We threw the key onto his grave.
Yeah.
All right, here's the key. Get it close up. And perfect. Thus sealing our union on the grave of Jim Morrison for all eternity. Once our love was buried with Jim Morrison's corpse, we decided to see what else was buried underneath Paris. For those who don't know, there are mass graves underneath Paris in a vast tunnel system. This solved the problem that Paris had once, with grave sites that were caving in. We're currently walking through the catacombs of France. It's an underground series of ossuaries where over 6 million people are said to have been buried. Over the years of Paris, I guess they had a cemetery problem, and this was the cure to bury the dead and take the bones from the old cemeteries that were dilapidated and putting them down here. As you can see, these tunnels are very tight, but very cool. So many bones, huh? Ashes to ashes, and dust to dust. The next day found us with the living above ground on Ash Wednesday. The closest church to our Airbnb apartment was Saint Sepulchre. It was in this beautiful setting that Miri and I had decided to celebrate the Catholic ritual of Mass. The Mass was in French, of course. We missed the English Mass, but that's okay. It's all the same all over the world. We received our ashes and took the sacrament, and now we're on our way back to the room. Tomorrow we begin our journey on a train to the south of France and the Way of St. James. All right, so this is it. This is our trip in Paris. It has been a wonderful time. I will post again once we are a week into our walk on the Camino. Please like and subscribe and share our YouTube channel at Jet Set Jimmy. And remember to visit our travel blog at jetsetjimmy.com.